Good morning and welcome to today's live webinar, SMART Stockyard Management. Stockpiles are mountains on the move with variable grades. So how do we gain more site control and realize more profit? That's what we're going to discuss. Today's webinar is session 2 of the series Business Transformation through Digitalization. This term will be explained to you shortly, but before we begin, I would like to thank the Southern African Institutes of Mining and Metallurgy for hosting this session for your benefit. And I'd also like to thank each of you for taking the time to join us here today. Given your expertise and experience, we really welcome your participation and encourage you to comment and ask questions as we go along. We will address all of those at the end. And if we don't get to all of your questions within the hour, we will respond to you personally afterwards. I'd like to introduce Dilly Naidu, Director at Rifle Shot Performance Holdings, who are celebrating their 22nd year of service to the mining industry. Dilly is an internationally experienced business leader with 35 years of experience in mining, oil and gas, and energy sectors. He's really passionate about the dynamics and intricacies and interactions of relationships and actively studies ancient cultures. Dilly, please begin the journey.
Thank you, Caroline. Hi, everyone, and welcome. Before we embark on our next presentation, which is the main reason for this webinar today, it is claimed, based on international research, that greater than 70% of business transformation journeys have failed. So what we have done is we have looked at some of the failings, and there are many reasons for these failures, including lack of executive sponsorship and support, cultural changes, etc. But we have coined the term digitalization. And if you look at the bridge that you see, it is being designed by an architect. And so it should be no different as far as business transformation through digital as the common thread, that before you embark on this, you should have an architecture that supports the business strategy. So we have coined the term digitalization. So one of the first things is that almost every one of you already have made investments in existing so-called legacy systems. So how do we preserve the investments that you've already made on these legacy systems while we are building this digital journey? So we have to build a solid digital transformation journey roadmap. And our suggestion is not to have a big bang approach, that you begin the journey with an identified initial priority area, which we call the proof of business value. And once you've done that and you've picked up some of the learnings and the experience that they've had, then you go through and you cut across the entire organization. One of the big challenges that we see, other than technology, is the people side of things, where, as you know, the bigger the organization gets, the deeper the silos get. So organization integration is very, very key for the success of this journey that you're embarking in. So we've created a formula for this, which we call IQ, which is your intelligence quotient, multiplied by your EQ, your emotional quotient, having the empathy for your colleagues and partners, etc., multiplied by systems quotients, the systems and processes, especially now with the introduction of artificial intelligence and machine learning. It's very important in terms of the systems and processes. And multiply that by DQ, which is what we're talking about, the digital quotient. And of course, things are moving at a rapid pace. So you multiply that by AQ, which is the agile quotient. And we believe if you follow those steps, that the organization will be better integrated for the success of this digital transformation journey. I want to talk to you a little bit about the mining value chain, which is very familiar to most of us. The example is a coal chain value chain, but this could apply to any commodity type. So the first thing is a number of the mining sector companies are challenged, especially in South Africa. You've got challenges of load shedding, where it's impacting the business operations, and you're also investing in supplementary alternative energy sources. You're also challenged by Transnet with the transportation and logistics, both on the rail as well as the logistics side of things at the ports, and also some of the cycles in terms of lower pricing of the commodities at any given time. So all these journeys that we're embarking on with digital has to support the business transformation. But we also have to have a product agnostic mindset. And what we've seen from our experience is that companies would buy brands and products as opposed to understanding what the business challenge is at that particular time while you look at the appropriate technology that you embark on. We also know that there's been divisions between IT, operational technology. We need to align IT with operational technology as well as engineering technology and build this architecture that supports, again, the overall business strategy. And this is how we would start moving beyond the pot to actual profit if we take this, so that we become visible of what's going across the entire value chain, including planning, scheduling, optimization. Wanted to touch very briefly on what used to be called supply chain, which we've coined the term value chain optimization and visualization. You're very familiar with this, where you do exploration, then you are going through extraction, production, processing, inventory management, logistics on the rail and port side, and then ultimately shipping to the end client. Peter, who's going to speak after me, will be covering a lot on things like stockyard management, etc. So I will skip that. But I want to touch a little bit on the production side, where we have selected some of the best OEM offerings and made it very easy for you. So if we look at our partnership with Aviva, we have offerings for production management, commonly known as AMPLA, and on the unified planning and scheduling called Spiral. And we've implemented this with mining companies. A recent example on our previous webinar was, how do we automate and digitize downtime management? Now, although we were doing downtime management automation with AMPLA, which includes integration to your backend systems like SCADAs, PLC, etc., we actually build a digital transformation journey. So we are moving beyond the automation of downtime management to materials movement management, inventory management, etc. We also have an offering from ION, both on the WAM side, which is for the demand planning and forecasting, as well as QMaster that has been used in South Africa as well as globally by large mining companies, including on the coal side. So the whole area of production, planning, scheduling, and optimization. So once you've done that, you're also moving the commodities to the port. So we don't stop at the port, because that's not where the profit is actually made. The profit is made through the entire value chain. So we have partnered with a Scandinavian company called Clavenice Digital that's been in the shipping business for over 70 plus years. So what they have is an offering called Cargo Value, which is designed for optimizing planning and scheduling of the commodities on the vessels, as well as monitoring via satellite the movements for expected ETA of these vessels. Given the focus on environmental, social, and governance as far as carbon emissions are concerned, they also have an offering called Zero Lab, which actually monitors the carbon emissions. So that's how we could move from put to profit with the best of breed OEM offerings. Now, cutting across all of this, where the real profit is made is with our partnership with Primsoft with an offering called SigmaFind, where it's involved in helping you with mass balancing, metals, and process accounting. And this is where some of our clients that are using that claim with a 1% deviation, they are saving millions of US dollars per annum. And then on the people side, where we still see mining companies, although they talk about digital transformation, they are using paper-based documents for issuing permits to work. So we have partnered here with Adapt IT with an offering called IntelliPermit under the banner of control of work, which allows you to minimize injuries, fatalities, and deaths. We have this IntelliPermit, electronic permit to work, installed in a number of mining companies, as well as in Australasia, UAE, Canada, and other countries with some of the largest mining companies. We are getting a number of requests from South African companies that are embarking on the digital journey to start looking at integrating the permit to work system. Last but not least, there's a big focus, as you know, on environmental, social, and governance. We're seeing a number of mining companies that are working with consulting companies to put a strategy in place. But once you put a strategy in place, how do you monitor and manage your environmental, social, and governance KPIs on a day-to-day basis? So here we have a partnership with a company called SoftXpert with a suite of modules under the banner of SE Suite, which includes more than 50 different modules, which includes governance, risk, and compliance, enterprise asset management, amongst a number of other modules. So what I wanted to do is just give you a feel for some of the overall offerings for the mining sector that we offer from Rifle Shot. So with that, I'm going to hand you over back to Caroline.
Thanks, Dilly. Next, I'd like to introduce Peter McPherson. He is a director at MRA Engineering. He's an electrical engineer with over 18 years of industry experience, and Peter's led multiple key projects in the bulk materials handling industry sector in Australia at several of the world's largest export terminals. Peter, over to you.
Thanks, Caroline and Dilly, for the introduction, and welcome to everyone joining in today. There'll be two parts of the presentation today that we'll be working through. First part is some slides in regards to MRA and our SMART products and our offering in their SMART Stockyard Management System. And then we'll also do a live demonstration of that system in action, which is one of our case studies for Port Kembla Coal Terminal in Australia. So firstly, just a little bit about MRA. So MRA is an Australian-based systems integrator who has a long history with automation in bulk materials handling. So mobile machines, conveyors, dump stations, all that typical infrastructure you have at ports and mining facilities. So that is our pedigree, where we have a lot of experience. In doing that, we identified that there was a gap in the market, that there was an option for next level automation on top of what you can traditionally do inside a PLC. And that's where we developed, where we internally invested and developed a range of what we call smart automation products. And those include Stockyard Management, our Stockyard Management System, Quality Management System, which is an add-on to that solution, Ship Loader ACS and automation, as well as train loadout and dump station automation. Today, we'll go into some detail about the Stockyard Management System. If you'd like some more details on any of the other offerings, please reach out. There is a common theme across all of our smart products, and that is that we keep the control inside the PLC. We don't want to replace the PLC. We want to just provide the PLC with smarter information. So we like to think of all of our solutions as a smart sensor. And it allows your in-house PLC and SCADA programmers to maintain control of the system, and they can maintain and modify as required. The other common theme across all of our smart products is the use of scanning technology, where we're agnostic to whether it's radar, LiDAR, 3D LiDAR as well. We pick and choose the best brand for the problem we're trying to solve. And when we combine our advanced environmental filtering with that scanning technology, we can work in very robust conditions. So we've had major deployments in quite a number of mine sites and export terminals where it is quite a dusty, dirty environment with lots of monsoonal rain as well, and our systems can work through those environments. And all these systems are applicable to any type of bulk material. So we've deployed in coal, iron ore, potash, bauxite, and heavy metals such as lead and copper. As you can see on the right-hand side, we've deployed with most of the larger miners throughout the Australian market and international as well. And then we utilise global systems integrators for our international deployments as well. So a little bit about the maturity of our smart stockyard management system. 65% of Australians' exports utilise MRA's smart stockyard management systems. That's over 250 million tonnes per annum utilise our system. So it shows the maturity of our systems that were first deployed in 2014, and we've then made advancements year upon year throughout that journey as we've deployed more and more systems. As we are the developer of these systems, not just a reseller, whenever a client comes to us with a problem, we can then work through that and add differing modules to our solution and go from there. So our system, for that reason, our system is quite modular, which allows us to customize the solution for the client. It's not a one-size-fits-all type approach. We can work with the client, build and detail the scope of the project, and then pick and choose the most appropriate modules for the solution. On the right-hand side there, it shows some images of our solutions. The first being our digital twin of the stockyard, which is a visualization of the stockyard showing a reclaimer in action, where the colours are representing the different reclaim benches. So the red being the middle bench and the green being the bottom. And then we'll go into a little bit more detail in the coming slides in regards to what the blue markers represent, which is our smart turn. The bottom image shows our quality management system where we can track grade in and out of a stockpile. So that allows for blending into a stockyard and blending out to make sure that you get that perfect consistency of material as you're contracted to. So from a case study point of view, we have a couple of key deployments that we'll go into a bit of detail in today's presentation. First one is Abbott Point Coal Terminal. So that's Adani's coal terminal in Australia. So they export roughly 55 million tonnes per annum of a combination of metallurgical and thermal coal. And as you can see there, we've gone through a staged approach with them over the years, and that's something we can do with all of our clients. We can work with them and work with their budgets to go through that staged approach. So we started off with automating their stockyard, just using PLC logic, so we're able to completely de-man their stockyard. Then we assisted them with the same process for their dump stations. We're able to de-man their 2 inloading dump stations at this facility. And then we introduced our SMART Stockyard Management System in 2017 when they wanted to get greater utilisation out of their stockyard and greater throughput. And in doing so, we're able to increase the throughput of their facility by 12%, so an additional 5 million tonnes per annum. So it was a very big result for that already automated facility. And that project, we won the Innovative Technology Award at the Bulk Handling Awards in 2019. Port Kembla Coal Terminal, and this is the facility where we will do a live demonstration of our system in action. So it's a coal export terminal in Wollongong, Australia, so about an hour south of Sydney, which exports approximately 14 million tonnes per annum. And once again, we worked with them through a number of stages over a number of years to get to their required goals, which was to regain control of their facility. While it was manually operated, they were having issues with not being in control of their full operations and the delays that were occurring because of that, and also wanted to be able to utilise the most of their small stockyard capacity. So by adding in our 3D modelling and then automating their machines, and then in 2021 we added laser optimisation as well. We've been able to fully automate their facility and provide them with a gross loading rate improvement of approximately 35%. So it was a very big gain for them. And we'll go a little bit more detail about that facility in the live demonstration coming up. A little bit about the staged approach that we recommend for our clients. It's something we can work hand in hand with the client and scope up appropriately throughout the project. So step one is being able to build a digital twin of the stockyard, and I'll speak more about each of these steps in the upcoming slides. Then we can add in LiDAR scanning. This can be immediately or can be later down the path. Like, for example, Port Kembla Coal Terminal was 3 years later, they added LiDAR scanning. It is critical for if you have dozers or front-end loaders or trucks operating in your stockyard. It is a requirement immediately, but if you are using just stackers and reclaimers, we can operate our system without scanning technology and still get very good, a very accurate model and a very good output. Next step on the roadmap is semi-automation. So introducing some automation functions into the machines. That may be allowing automated bench reclaiming, where the operator sets up on the bench and then the machine can finish it. And typically you'd get a throughput of around 7.5% gain in efficiency with semi-automation. Our smart turn is the next step, which, as I mentioned in the previous slide, we can identify where the edges of the stockpile are and get the machine to turn around still in the material, which allows for greater throughput, but also less stress on the machine as well. And typically you'd achieve an additional 10% gain with smart turn. Full automation is the next step, where you can completely deman the stockyard and gain an additional 7.5% there as well. So in total, there's a conservative 25% gain in throughput through those steps. And then there's also quality management as well, which is all about being able to blend in and out of the stockpile to meet those required targets. So I'll speak a little bit more about each of these steps, but the key part is if you are already semi-automated, we can start at that step and work our way through. Or if you are manually operated, we can start all the way back there. Or you may just be interested in modelling, for example, as per this slide, where you just want to know the quantity on the ground. We can just deploy that part of our system, or you might want to be interested just in the grade. So it's very modular, and we can work through that with the client. So our stockyard modelling, it's underpinned by a volumetric model, and this is a point of difference of our solution compared to others on the market. So we can build a mathematical model of what the stockpile looks like. And you can see on the right-hand side there, it is quite accurate. That is a image taken from a coal export terminal in Australia from their CCTV cameras. and then our digital twin, our visualization below, which shows a very realistic representation of the stockyard, typically within 100 to 300 millimeters of accuracy. And we've had that drone surveyed numerous times. So that's accurate enough for full automation and large optimization gains by itself with no scanners. But if you have monsoonal rain or dozers, for example, that's when scanners are required, or if you want to go to next level optimization. 3D visualization is a key part of the system. If you build a model, you want to be able to display that somewhere and give your operations personnel a tool where they can see exactly what is happening at any time in the stockyard. So it's a real-time visualization of exactly what's going on, where you can see the location of every machine and the state of every stockpile. And we can also play back for 30 days of operations as well. So we'll have a look at that, the real-time system at Port Kembla shortly. Smart turn reclaim optimization. So as mentioned previously, we introduced these blue bars on each end of the stockpile that show in the current swing and the next swing where our system recommends the machine should turn around so it stays in the material and doesn't leave the material, causing flex of the boom, drop in production, and the like. And also a part of our reclaim optimization is being able to monitor the face of the stockpile to look for any slumping of material, so we can avoid that, or we can speed up if there's gaps in the material flow as well too. It's all about keeping that consistent loading on the bucket wheel. The top image shows a very simple stockpile at Abbott Point Coal Terminal that's been stacked by a stacker reclaimer and reclaimed by a stacker reclaimer, where the image down below is from a coal export terminal in Canada, where they operate with a large amount of dozers in the stockyard. So you can see the irregular shaped stockpiles, and the rainbows coming off the machine is the raw laser hits from the scanners. So as you can see, it builds a very accurate model of what the stockpile looks like, even when there's been dozers running throughout the stockpile, pushing it out to the double the width of where the machine can reach, and still allowing that visualization and optimization side of things. Semi-automation, as I mentioned before, is allowing the operator to set the machine up at the beginning of a stockpile on the bench, and then allowing the machine then to automatically reclaim the remainder of the bench. So that starts to allow consistent reclaiming, which is less wear and tear on your machine, less fatigue on your boom, and keeping consistent throughput. Then once it finishes the bench, then the operator is then able to relocate it to the next bench for reclaiming. Full automation is then just taking that to the next level, using our job and task automation to take the system it allows complete demanning of the stockpile. So you can see on the image down below here, this is our visualization showing what the planned tasks are at that stage. So a reclaiming task in the orange and a stacking task in the blue. You can see they're a height of 17 meters, source from the road rail. So it just gives the operator staff an idea of what the planned tasks are, and then the ability to then execute them through the PLC and SCADA system. Quality management is an additional module to our system, which is applicable for facilities that are interested in the grade. So that may be because they're importing and they want to confirm that they are receiving the correct grade. It may be that they're exporting and want to confirm that they are exporting the correct grade and not going well above their target. They are just meeting their target. Or maybe for a steel plant or a power plant that is trying to get the most consistent and appropriate blend of material into their facility. So we can use online analyzers or laboratory sampling information and append that into our model. And the way we go about that is we break our stockpile into 100mm cubic Lego bricks, and then we can append all of that data to each of those bricks, so it's not an average of a stockpile. It is down to all of these, each and every one of these little Lego blocks. So when we do a reclaim task at one end, we'll get a different result to, say, reclaiming for another end or doing bench reclaiming. And our system allows you to then do what-if scenarios where you can see what grade you would achieve if I do, say, a 20,000 tonne Pilgrim drop from the east end compared to if I did it from the west end, and you can confirm, would I meet my target or would I fall below or well above? And then you can adjust and try that what-if scenario again. Another option of our system is you can type in the target that you want to achieve, and then our system will advise you where you should reclaim to achieve that target. Or you can manually search as well in our visualization, which you can see in these images here. You can use these planes to move through the stockpile side to side and up and down, which then shows you the internals of the stockpile as well, because you may have a different grade underneath the surface where you've built a cone of a high grade material and then stacked over the top of it with a lower grade. So you can scan through and see each and every one of those blocks and what quality they have. The top image is from a power station in Australia where they're interested in age. With higher ash content coals, if the material stayed there for an extended period of time, the material would get quite solid and would cause damage to the bucket wheel, and also a higher risk of spontaneous combustion as well by leaving it there. So they wanted to have a tool where they could see where their oldest material is and be able to reclaim that first. So you can actually deselect these grades on the key here and only show, say, material that's over 12 weeks old. So you can see exactly where that material is in the same format as below in that all those little Lego bricks. So it's a very powerful tool, the quality management system, which also has some web reporting tools associated with it as well. So this was from an iron ore export facility in Australia where they wanted to track the grade of their material from the mine site in every wagon into the stockyard at the port and then into every hatch of the vessel. And for import terminals, we can do the opposite, and can also be for a mine going into a power plant, we can do a similar value chain. So we can look at the complete chain from pit to the end process and track that grade all the way through. So their key driver was they wanted to know what was in the vessel before it leaves port. Previously, their existing systems, they wouldn't get their results till 12 hours later. So they were just having a guess of what grade they were delivering. And 12 hours later, they'd work out whether they were under or over or on target. This gave them a live real-time value of whether they were on target for, here they were looking at 6 different elements of iron ore. So it all comes down to how much you get out of your sampling systems that we can utilise in our tools. And all this information is available via a database API connections, so you can share all this information with your existing reporting tools as well. So our last slide before we get into the live demonstration is just a bit of an idea of our core modules as well as our optional modules, which aligns with our staged rollout that we spoke to previously. So part of our core SMS, you get the volumetric modelling and the 3D visualisation, which we'll take a look at Port Kembla. Optimised start positions, so to ensure that you're starting at the most efficient location, you're not air swinging. Machine to stockpile separation distance, which we'll see in the live demonstration. Stockpile zone planning, performance tracking and reporting, so being able to share that information out into reporting tools such as Power BI or any other tools that you utilise. 30-day playback, which we'll take a look at. third-party data integration, so we can bring in data from online analyzers, sample stations, planning, logistics systems, any tools that you have as a part of your suite. And all these systems are applicable to different types of stockyards. So bucket wheel slough reclaimers that you've seen in these images, and you'll see at Port Kembla, bridge bucket wheel reclaimers, A-frame scrapers, dozers and reclaim valves. It's applicable to any type of stockpile arrangement for bulk material. Then stockpile scanning is one of our additional modules. Reclaim optimization, as we spoke about, semi-automation, full automation. 48-hour play forward is a interesting one. It's one of our newest modules in our suite, and that looks into being able to play forward your operations. What will my stockyard look like in 24 or 48 hours time based on my planned loading and unloading? Will there be a machine clash? Will I run out of material? Will I run out of space? All of that can be answered with the 48-hour play forward module. And we also have rail clearance detection, so being able to scan the rails of the machines to make sure there's no people, vehicles, spillages that could cause damage to the machine or safety issues, and spontaneous combustion as well. So being able to see an overlay on the visualization of the thermal cameras to see, is there any hot spots starting to form in the stockpile. So what I'll do now is I'll stop sharing this screen and I'll jump over to my live demonstration. Okay, so this is the Port Kembla coal terminal in Wollongong, Australia. So it is an hour south of Sydney, and they export around 14 million tonnes per annum. So this is their visualization environment, which they use in the control room. So they have it on a large format TV screen in the control room, so they can see at any moment, real time, a digital twin of their stockyard to see exactly what is happening. And that has saved them a lot of time having to go out and visually inspect stockpiles before stacking or reclaiming, or after heavy weather events and the like. So it gives them, it's saved them a lot of time and effort, and obviously reducing safety incidents with people visiting stockpiles or out there visually inspecting, especially in inclement weather. So this is a Windows-based application that can be ran on any PC on site. So it can be ran multiple instances. So maybe planning logistics may want to use such a system, or it might be your engineering personnel to fault find stackers and reclaimers, or your operations staff as well. So it's a pan tilt zoom environment where you can zoom in, out and move around as required to see the stockpile from any angle you'd like. We also have these XYZ coordinates up in the top right-hand corner, which show wherever you move your mouse, it'll tell you the position of those coordinates. So, for example, the toe of this stockpile is at the 511 metre mark. Height of that stockpile is 17.6 metres, and the other toe is at the 650 metre mark. So it's very powerful tool for all of your staff across your site to be able to help them with whatever problems they're currently working through. As alluded to in the presentation, the colours represent the different reclaim benches. So yellow being the top bench, blue and red being the middle, and green being the bottom reclaim benches. So that allows you to see which stockpiles are fully built, such as this one, compared to something that's been partially reclaimed, or if there's been some overstacking and that as well. So the colours are very useful as well, so you can just get that quick glance and see what's going on. So this is, it's real time is a key component. So it will show the live operations. So for example, we can look at machine views and see the machines in action at that time. So this is Stacker 8, and it's the machine front view we're looking at the moment. So this view will follow Stacker 8 around wherever it moves, and we'll see it in operation. So it's currently set up, ready for stacking. It shows the material coming off the end when it is stacking, so it's obviously not at the moment. This also shows the separation distance between the boom tip and the stockpile, which is passed into the control system to be used which assists with stacking and also anti-collision with stockpiles as well. So the reclaimer also provides separation distance to the stockpile to avoid running into the stockpile during setup. So it's very useful to avoid damaging the machine when setting up in a stockyard. So with these machine views, we can change to any machine. So there's Reclaimer 3 machine front. So I looked at their operations plan. They're planning to start loading in about an hour's time. So they've already set up the reclaimer in preparation to reclaim this stockpile. And you can also see there that machine separation distance of 15 metres. What you will notice is between those two stockpiles, you'll see this stockpile is quite rough and looks like a true stockpile compared to when we're looking at Stacker 8 a moment ago, where this stockpile is quite smooth. And this has been built using our underlying volumetric model, where this stockpile here has been updated via our scanning technology. So if we have a look at the top down view of the reclaimer, and if I turn on the lasers, we can see the laser scanners shining. So they're mounted on each side of the boom. It's a 3D LiDAR scanner, and you can see each of the coloured dots shining on the surface of the stockpile. So that is updating the surface of that stockpile and taking it from smooth, like we saw with the stacked stockpile, to a realistic stockpile. And they'll be scanning the face as you're reclaiming side to side as well, picking up any falling material and being able to then allow the machine to speed up, slow down, step back as required through that operation. We can also, if we go back to our stockpile view, we can also show which stockpiles are planned for reclaiming at the moment. So this orange box represents the reclaim task. So they must be planning to reclaim just this end of this stockpile. So they'll be doing a pilgrim drop. And then we can also turn on our stockpile zones, which are customized zones throughout the stockyard. So at any time, the client can adjust these zones. They can split them, make them bigger, make them smaller, as they work through their planning and logistics side of things. So you can hover over each of these stockpiles and get some information about these zones. So for example, this one, their naming is called Stockpile 14. It shows the minimum and maximum change marks of that stockpile. The calculated tonnes on the ground inside that zone, so 44,000 tonnes. The free capacity, so how much more could you stack in that zone? So 40,000 tonnes. How much free capacity is there if they do overstacking? So this facility, when there's forecast of dry weather, they can overstack, so they can lift the stacker up slightly higher and throw material over the back of the stockpile to get some additional space. So if they go into that mode, they would be able to achieve an additional 18,000 tonnes, and the density of that stockpile has been calculated as 0.874. So you can see as you move from stockpile to stockpile, you get information just about each of those stockpiles. We can also customize these pop-ups or the display in general. Some of our facilities put large text up the top here showing how many tonnes is on the ground at any time across all of their stockpiles, which may be very useful for, say, a power plant to identify how many days of coal have they got left, are they running low, or for a steel plant, for example. this site being an export terminal, they're more interested in each of these zones, how much material's in each of those. But we can add additional information. It may be the name of the mine where the materials come from, or you may have a special name for that blend of material as well. All of that can be displayed in this, or there may be an element that you're interested in. It might be the average calorific content or the average ash content of that stockpile. We can display that on there as well. Where if you go into your quality mode, then you'll be able to see that down to the brick by brick level. But this view, we can just show some averages, which may be appropriate. What we can also do is, as mentioned in the slides, is we can then also look at a 30-day playback as well. So we can go from live operations to our playback. So if we go to pick a day here on the 28th of October, you go select and play. What you'll see now is all the machines have changed location and the stockpiles have changed shape. You can see this stockpile's extended, same as down here. And another one, couple of ones up here have been reclaimed since. You can see a little bit of interesting behaviour going on here where they've partially reclaimed and then built a little cone on top of it. So this is a very useful tool where you can go back up to 30 days, even longer, depending upon the size of databases for the storage. With this site, 30 days was appropriate for them. And then we can replay the operations at differing speeds. So down the bottom here, we can move the slider to any given time throughout the day. So now we're looking at 10 a.m. on the 28th of October in real time. And then we can also fast forward that through as well, because the machine's obviously quite big and quite slow. So sometimes it's great to be able to move through at a faster speed. So we can go all the way to 15 minutes per second. So you can see there where the stacker has packed up and now the reclaimer has started reclaiming. What I'll do here is I'll pause it while it's on that middle bench and we'll go to a closer view so we can see the reclaimer in action. So we're looking at Reclaimer 3 top-down view. And what you'll see on the left here is a bit of information about this smart sensor, about what information it's receiving from the PLC. So we're receiving luff, slew and long travel position, as well as down the bottom here, tons per hour for when, if it's a stacker. In this case, we're reclaiming, so it's not appropriate. And then we provide all of this information plus more to the PLC for to use as a part of its automation. The key part of that is where to start the stockpile, where to end the stockpile, depth of cut, and then also the turnarounds. So what we're displaying here on this pop-up is the burst outs of BO in the clockwise direction. So when I'm heading in the clockwise direction, at what angle will I leave the material? And that's represented by this dark blue bar. And the same counterclockwise. When will I leave the material heading in this direction? So the PLC can then use that and turn the machine around prior to that angle, which leaves a tiny bit of blue material, which means it's not leaving the pile, it's staying in the pile. And that'll just collapse down to the next bench when we reclaim that. What it means is it's doing very optimal reclaiming. And that is very hard to achieve without a smart system such as this. That's how we've been able to get those very large throughput gains with our systems. So we can fast forward that a little bit more. We can see quick action, that stockpile being reclaimed. So on a Monday morning, for example, you can come in and see and watch your entire weekend be replayed in, say, 10 minutes or so. So it's very powerful, that 30-day playback, to understand if there was an issue with why does my stockpile look like the way it does? Was there a clash with machines, for example? So it gives you that full, a lot more information than, say, looking at trends, for example. So that's all I had for today as a part of our presentation. It was a very quick run through our Smart Stockyard Management System and a live demonstration of the real-time system at Paul Kembler coal export terminal. So I'll hand it over to Martin now.
Thank you, Peter. That was really fascinating and insightful, and hugely useful. Next up, we have Martin Marion, who is our specialist resultant at Rifle Shot. He has over 14 years of supply chain and advanced planning and scheduling experience, and Martin ensures that customer business processes and advanced planning and scheduling system functionality are aligned, so our clients can achieve real benefits and really exploit opportunities within their business environments across the value chain. Martin?
Thanks, Caroline. I think you're sharing, but you're sharing the first slide. So maybe just go down to...
Yeah.
Thanks. There we go. 100%. Thank you. And thanks to Peter. I can definitely say every time, obviously it's not the first time that I look at your presentation, but impressed every time that I look at it. Just from my side, welcome to everybody as well, and thanks for joining us. So, in terms of the message that we try to convey is, obviously Dilly had a look at the overall view of embarking on a digitalization journey. And then Peter showed you, one of our solutions that we have that obviously helps with bulk material handling and the automation of that. But that's all very nice, etc. But we have to ask ourselves, how do we do that? How can we start on this, and how do we achieve those improvements that Peter spoke about? And MRA and Rifle Shot is aligned on a lot of the ways that on how we do business. And I just like to take you through some of our key, how can I call it? Some of the key stuff that makes Rifle Shot who we are and how we do business with clients. So first of all is, our innovation cube thinking. A lot of other guys selling software, they just sell the software and don't really look at the business itself. Whereas by Rifle Shot's a bit different, where we, actually look at your business and see, what are the real needs in your business. And, irrespective, even before we come to a proposing a solution and implementing software, is that software really speaking to some of the key challenges that you're experiencing? And is it going to add value to you? So, it doesn't help us doing a project selling software, but that's not really the problem in the business or really a opportunity for the business. So we've got this different way of thinking and really, sort of preloading any project and making sure that we're solving the right challenges. Then secondly, we've got we call ourselves resultants instead of consultants. So, it's less about us telling you what's wrong and telling you what to do, and more about us working with you to solve the problem and actually achieving the result. So making sure that we ultimately deliver value to you, because that's, in terms deliver values to ourselves and everybody's happy. So how do we do it? And like I said, we look at the system, and we've got a methodology which we coined as the BAG methodology, which is business alignment and growth. So making sure that the business aligns with the strategy and the challenges aligns with that strategy. So making sure that, all of the resources work towards achieving the value and taking the business to the next step. We also, Dilly mentioned the word, and you'll see it coming up a lot. We've got a long-term trusted advisor partnership ethos, which means that we, want to walk the journey with you. It's not just a sell. It's, establishing a partnership with you guys, with the customer, and making sure that we can act as a trusted advisor, tell you that, from our point of view, from what we've seen, this is maybe the right way to go. Don't go that way. Irrespective of the solution or anything like that. So, we build that trust and we build a long-term relationship. We've got relationship with customers, spanning several decades for some of the other members of the teams as well. So that's very important to us, and we actually pride ourselves on that, trusted advisor role that we can play with our customers. When we come to actually, delivering the project, we've got dedicated subject matter experts per technology. Dilly showed you all of the technologies that we've got as part of our suite, if you can call it that. We've got an established program and project office, obviously making sure that once we've established what we want to do and when we want to do it, that gets achieved. And, if there's any problems that come up, then everybody's aware of that problem. How are we going to, overcome that? What's the next step, etc. Having that communication open all the time. Then once we've delivered the project, a big part of our business is obviously the ongoing support and services afterwards. Like Peter mentioned, with their phased approach, a lot of our other projects is also in phases. You have to establish a foundation, and then you achieve some value with the first phase. So you've established the foundation and you've implemented maybe one or two modules of the solution, or just a small part of it. But the real value comes once you've laid that foundation, is that ongoing support and services, where you can say that, okay, we've done this now. What's our next step? What's the next thing that's going to add more value? And because we're involved on this support side, we live close to the customer, so that we always aligned in terms of where the business is going and what might be a next opportunity to add value. Then the last point there is, almost coming back to the established program and project office and ensuring good communications, is a dedicated client account manager, or what we like to call it, the SPOC, a single point of contact. Making sure that you as a customer, if there's a problem or if there's a query, etc., you've got a single person at Rifle Shot that you can speak to, that knows your business, that's been involved with all the projects at your business, and they can then relate it to the different subject matter experts, etc. That just makes it easier for the customer. You don't necessarily want to speak to 5 different people, and there's a mixed messages coming through, and everybody's not on the same page. So that single point of contact helps us to make sure that we know what's going on in your business, and making sure that we do answer your query as soon as possible. I think just in summary, we have to start the journey somewhere, and you really have a long-term view to add value to the customer as we go along. Thanks, Caroline.
Thank you, Martin. We're almost out of time, but I do have a few quick questions. So I know that obviously, as Peter mentioned, a project like this would be a phased approach. And obviously, as Peter said, typically the increase of throughput efficiency would be roughly 25%. But given a phased approach, can you give us a ballpark time estimate, Peter, as to how long a project would typically take to implement? From beginning, if you're starting with a manual process, to the end of where you get to that 25% throughput efficiency?
Yeah, it's a great question. We can work through, it's differing from brownfield sites compared to greenfield sites. So our system can be rolled out in existing facilities. And typically when that occurs, it's done in a staged manner due to getting operational staff up to speed, outages for installation of equipment and testing, for example. But it can be compacted down to 12 months to achieve the full automation of a stockyard. If you're just looking for something like visualization and maybe scanning just to get that accurate digitalization and know the material on the ground, that may be somewhere as little as 2 months to deploy such a system. And then it goes anywhere between those 2 dates, depending upon where the finish line is. And that's the same for a greenfield site so typically we'll work in when the machines are with the OEMs of the machines and can allow for full automation as a part of their rollout model as well.
Wow, okay, thank you. And then you mentioned getting the operational staff up to speed as well. Would you need extra skilled resources to implement this?
No, it's a very, very intuitive system from an operational point of view, and where there is no control aspects in our visualization. It's all of the control aspects are done in the existing PLC and SCADA system. So your staff that already are trained up in SCADA systems can already have the skills to be able to operate the facility. So it is just some very simple training in regards to using our job and task management systems and being able to work through those. And then we also offer training to the PLC and SCADA personnel on site as well, giving them an overview of how the system works in detail, so they have the skills and capabilities to be able to fault find and modify the system as required. So it is no need to upskill any personnel or introduce new personnel to the business. We can train up the existing resources in a very short time frame.
Awesome. Thank you. And we are out of time, and I'd like to thank everybody for joining us and our presenters for their contributions. To get started on your own journey to business transformation through digitalization, please get in touch with us and we will guide you using our unique business alignment and growth strategies. Thank you.
Caroline, if I may, before we leave, I started off talking about some of the challenges that are beyond the control, the Eskom load shedding challenges, the Transnet rail and ports challenges, and the lower commodity prices. But I think to the audience that's looked at the case study, just on the semi-automation, you're looking at an average of 7.5% gain in throughput efficiency. You're looking at 11.7% on the stacker reclaims, etc. So these are things that are within your control. They're not beyond your control. So clearly, this can help you both in improving your top line as well as bottom line. And, we've seen public announcements by some of the mining companies in terms of retrenchments, etc. So this is something that can really improve the throughput efficiencies, but bottom line at the end of the day. So with that, Caroline, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Exactly why we need to reclaim every ounce of profit. Thank you. I hope you all derived value out of this session, and we look forward to hosting you again in February for our next webinar, which will focus on using data as an asset for metals accounting and mass balancing. Thank you again. Take care and goodbye.